Distinguished guests, good afternoon. Today, in this historic moment at UNESCO headquarters conference room, I am profoundly honored to stand here with all of you. We wish for peace from around the world at this international conference commemorating the centennial anniversary of the birth of Venerable Master Chinkan for world harmony. In my home, the chanting of Venerable Master Chinkan's Amida Buddha resounds from morning till night, year-round. For me, Venerable Master Chinkan transcended the role of a mere high priest. He was my guiding mentor, elevating my political philosophy of fraternity, or UI in Japanese, to a deeper dimension, the cosmic spirit of harmony known as compassion. He was also like a father to me. In May 2015, I invited the master to the UI Sanso retreat in Karuizawa, Japan, a place connected to the Hatoyama family. Amidst the vibrant, fresh greenery of Karuizawa, the master, with his ever-present gentle smile, told the gathered people about the heart of benevolence and universal love. Born in Anhui Province, China, in 1927, the Venerable Master honed his studies in Taiwan. His footsteps spanned the globe, from Australia and Southeast Asia to UNESCO headquarters. The essence of his teachings lay in extracting the common thread of love and harmony. It is found in the teachings of all sages: Confucianism, Taoism, Islam, Christianity, without adhering rigidly to any single sect. When serving as a UNESCO ambassador in 2005, the Master remained steadfast in his conviction that interfaith cooperation was the key to fundamentally resolving human conflicts. The Master never lived in a temple for his lifetime because he believed that having a temple made him lead to material desire. Today, we must reflect on how to translate this spirit of the Venerable Master into concrete political and diplomatic action, holding it up to the mirror of the severe international situation we face in 2026. I wish to sketch out this grand design together with all of you. Each time I met Venerable Master Chinkan in Hong Kong, he urged me to read the governing principles of ancient China. Emperor Taizong of Tang Dynasty, who pacified a turbulent society, ordered to compile it in the 7th century. Although the books had been lost in China, it was later found in Japan and re-exported to Qing Dynasty. Venerable Master insisted that if its principles were deeply understood and implemented, the world would achieve peace. I understand that Chinese President Xi Jinping has read it, but unfortunately, the message of the governing principles still seems to have not reached many world leaders. Today, the world faces its most dangerous era of division since the end of the Cold War. The protracted and tragic Russia-Ukraine war, endless destruction and slaughter in Gaza, and the dark clouds of U.S.-China confrontation looming over East Asia. The chain of confrontation and retaliation that the priest feared most now envelopes the entire planet on an unprecedented scale. Then On February 28, the United States and Israel launched attacks on Iran, killing leaders including Ayatollah Khamenei and civilians. Neither President Trump nor Prime Minister Netanyahu has ever presented evidence that Iran is developing nuclear weapons. On the contrary, they are seeking to justify war by demanding regime change in another sovereign nation. Trump's phrase, peace through strength, seems to be enveloping the world. Yet Western governments cannot openly criticize it. This is truly deplorable. Amid this geopolitical crisis, it is regrettable that my country has not been able to play an active role for peace. It is partly due to the fact of the decline of Japan as a nation. In 1994, Japan boasted a 17.9% share of global GDP. However, by 2025, it had plummeted to 3.4%, with per capita GDP also falling sharply to 40th place globally. In contrast, China achieved a remarkable leap during the same period, rising from 2% to 17%. Japan's share of UN contribution also declined from 20% to around 6.9%, while China took Japan's place as the second largest contributor, approximately 20%, trailing only the United States. And as you know very well, the Trump administration is now turning its back on the United Nations. Turning to the real economy, the situation for Japan is even more severe. Over these 20 years, Japan's crude steel production, automobile production, and primary energy supply have all declined by more than 20%. Cash wages and household consumption expenditures have also continued to fall, leaving Japan in a state of long-term stagnation, rarely seen globally. This decline in national strength has significantly weakened Japan's diplomatic leverage. What would Venerable Master Chinkan say if he saw Japan today? Master consistently taught attachment to material wealth breeds conflict. True peace arises from knowing contentment and sharing with others. I believe Japan should view the ground subsidence we now face as the birth pangs of redefining our identity. It is necessary for Japan to abandon the arrogance of our former status as an economic powerhouse and instead embrace our role as a member of the world and the pioneer of harmony. Ladies and gentlemen, in the current international landscape, much of the Japanese government and media seeks to frame the world in a binary opposition of democracy versus authoritarianism. Europe may not be an exception. However, I am convinced this is precisely the trap of division. Regarding the Ukraine conflict, many Western nations condemn Russia as the sole villain. Yet, calmly examining the cause and effect as taught by Venerable Master reveals another perspective. In 1990, during German reunification, a tacit promise was made among the leaders of the time that NATO would not expand 1 inch to the east. Yet, the United States reneged on this promise. persistently expanding its military alliance right up to Russia's doorstep. While this does not justify Russia's actions, we must acknowledge the fact that this accumulation of dishonesty became the fuel for this tragic conflict. Even authoritarian states have security concerns and will seek to respond. Actions that disregard the other party's perspective could lead to unexpected consequences. As the only nation to have experienced the nuclear tragedies of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan should have been in a position to mediate an early ceasefire and a neutral peace rather than siding with either camp. As Venerable Master Chinkan taught at UNESCO, building a fortress of peace first requires a dialogue of compassion that listens to the other's fears and security concerns. Regarding a potential crisis in the Taiwan Strait, we must draw the right lessons from the Russia-Ukraine war. The famous phrase, "A Taiwan contingency is a Japanese contingency," has taken on a life of its own, fueling calls for missile deployments and military buildup in the southwest islands of Japan. Yet, the true role of politics is to create a situation where the term contingency is never used again. Japan should return to the 1972 Japan-China Joint Statement, respect the One China policy, and urge both the U.S. and China to firmly reject the use of force. Some may find it appealing to encourage the independence of democratic Taiwan, but its consequences are utterly unacceptable. We must constantly strive to apply the Venerable Master's teachings of equality and coexistence to diplomacy. We should root out the seeds of war and transform the arms race into disarmament negotiations. That is the path to elevate the Master's spirit of non-aggression into the reality of politics. Venerable Master Chinkan delivered multiple speeches at UNESCO advocating for world peace through religious education. This perfectly aligns with the UNESCO Constitution's preamble. Since wars begin in the minds of men, it is in the minds of men that the defenses of peace must be constructed. As concrete tools for achieving peace, the Master cited the following three principles. 1. Sincerity, honest diplomacy without pretense. 2. Equality, a spirit that equally respects both large and small nations as well as different values. 3. Compassion, the empathetic ability to perceive others' suffering as one's own. These share the exact same source as the UI of fraternity I advocate. UI is a spirit that respects both one's own freedom and dignity and the freedom and dignity of others. The current turmoil in the global economy, widening disparities, and global boiling, these global challenges can no longer be resolved by a single nation or a single set of values alone. We must stand on the perspective of peace advocated by Venerable Master Chinkan and create a forum for discussion that transcends confrontation. Ladies and gentlemen, here I wish to address a perspective that is indispensable for creating peace, yet has long been excluded from the forefront of international politics, the role of women. When expounding on the compassionate heart of Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, Venerable Master Chinkan often suggested it symbolizes motherhood, the capacity to feel another's pain as one's own, empathy, and the resilient will to nurture and protect life. These are precisely the fundamental forces for building peace. Looking back at history, many conflict resolution processes have been driven by male-centric logic. However, rigid logic focused solely on balance of power or deterrence has limitations when addressing today's complex conflicts. An UN Security Council Resolution 1325 states the participation of women in peacekeeping and reconstruction efforts has been proven to dramatically increase success rates. Women are the weaver of peace within local communities, connecting people from diverse backgrounds and sustaining dialogue. From the smallest unit of peace, the family, to the largest unit, the international community, we must place women's network of compassion at the core of politics. Within my vision of an East Asian community, I firmly believe that mandating the participation of female leaders and institutionalizing non-aggression from a maternal perspective is the shortest path to the harmony we seek. My lifetime project, East Asian Community, can be described as a vision to concretely institutionalize the teachings of the Venerable Master throughout East Asia. After the devastation of World War II, Europe created the EU, beginning with the joint management of coal and steel, or the tools of war. We should follow a similar process in East Asia around economy, energy, environment, healthcare, and cultural education. We must build a community based on the spirit of sharing across many fields. In particular, I earnestly hope that the permanent conference body for this community will be established in Okinawa, Japan. Okinawa, once of the Ryukyu Kingdom, served as a bridge connecting nations and built peace through trade. The island was also the only place where ground battles occurred in Japanese territory during World War II, claiming the lives of 1/4 of its innocent people. Moreover, even after the war, Okinawa has long borne the heavy burden of the U.S.-based issue. Because of its history of suffering, I believe Okinawa is most suitable as a stronghold for the new Asian community. Within this conference body, representatives from Japan, China, South Korea, possibly North Korea, and ASEAN countries sit at the same table. Guided by the same spirit of interfaith reconciliation taught by Venerable Master Chinkan, they engage in harmonization of national interests. That there, a stronghold of peace in the heart should be built not through military deterrence, but through dialogue that resolves mutual distrust. Venerable Master Chinkan entered Nirvana in 2022 at the age of 95. Yet, the message he left behind, spread love to the world, resonate powerfully within our hearts even now. I also recall the words of Count Richard Coudenhove-Kalergi, the father of the EU. He once stated, "All great historical happenings began as utopias and ended as realities." The construction of an East Asian community, a world without nuclear weapons, and complete reconciliation between religions, all may seem like utopias when viewed against current reality. Yet, when a fortress of peace is built within one person's heart, and that resonates with 2, 3, and then countless others, utopia becomes a force of reality. Interestingly, Venerable Master Chenkan was an easy adopter of the internet and satellite broadcasting for peace education, using the tools of civilization not for conflict but for integration. We too must use modern technology not to attack others but to foster mutual understanding. Ladies and gentlemen, finally, on this commemorative day marking the centennial anniversary of Venerable Master Chenkan's birth, I wish to make a pledge together with all of you to never forget, even for a moment, that we are members of a community sharing a common destiny on this planet, and to never succumb to the temptation of nationalism that pursues only the interests of one's own country. It is impossible to build one's own happiness upon the misfortune of one's neighbor. The compassion taught by the Venerable Master and the UI I hold as my conviction both converge on this single point: to find one's own joy in the happiness of others. As a politician and as a human being, I am resolved to engrave Venerable Master Chenkan's teachings upon my heart and dedicate the remainder of my life to bringing harmony to East Asia and the world. I see the wisdom and compassion of each of you gathered at this international conference. It will become a light reaching those trembling in the shadow of war, those suffering in poverty, and those despairing in division. With this wish, I conclude my keynote address. Remember, the spirit of Venerable Master Chenkan remains with us today, gently watching over this world. Thank you for your kind attention.
Okay.